You're live.
All right, I would like to welcome everybody to our Facebook Live. Also want to apologize that it is delayed. We had some significant technical difficulties at 4 o'clock, but we are glad to be here at 4:30. It seems kind of quintessential to the experiences we've been having during this global pandemic. Everything changes on a dime. We have to turn around and be adaptable and flexible with what is happening from day to day, and today it was from minute to minute. I am Ashley Smith, your Canyon City Mayor. I have with me today Ryan Stevens, our City Administrator, and shortly Police Chief Derek Harvey will be joining us as well. We are doing these Facebook Lives every Thursday at 4 p.m. This is an opportunity to answer your questions and keep you updated on what's happening in Canyon City. We will probably be doing these every single week during the stay-at-home mandate and beyond, as I imagine that there will be a longer transition into normalcy as we keep moving forward. Today we've collected beforehand 34 questions from our community, which is totally awesome. It means you're listening, you're curious, and you want to have some answers, and we are really happy to have this opportunity to address those. If more questions come up, you're more than welcome to address those and ask in the Facebook feed, and you can just comment below. Since our last week's update, we've had some major changes already. One of them is the April 26th extension and the suggestion to wear face masks. And even though we all saw it coming, I don't know about you, but my stomach still dropped knowing that we're going to be at home for that much longer. Businesses are going to be closed for that much longer, and it's been a little bit devastating for some of us. And I just want to encourage everyone to stay strong. Our cases have been really good. We're up to 6, but we're still doing really well, and I'm really proud of Canyon City for that. Besides that, I would like to just also ask that as far as wearing face masks go, that if we all wear them, then we'll feel more comfortable. It's really awkward at first, but the more of us that do it, the more normal it will feel. I know the very first day after the governor's suggestions, I went to Safeway, and almost everybody in the grocery store were wearing masks that day, and I was really proud of Canyon City residents for doing that. A different question would be presented to our essential businesses and them being able to comply with those safety matters. The sooner we can get over this, the better for all of us. And for me personally, I'm realizing that me and my family's hygiene and our habits that we're developing during this time will probably be permanent, as far as obsessive hand washing, better social distancing when we're sick, and even at home wearing those face masks if somebody is sick. I'm like, this is an epiphany. This is actually a great idea. Especially I have kids that are horrible chronic coughers, and it drives me absolutely nuts during the flu season, and these face masks are going to be a really good way to alleviate that. So there's some good things that can come from it. Now, as the time has been going on, I have noticed that there's been a continued divide of feelings across Fremont County and Canyon City. There are those who have been worried, and they're even more worried now. Very concerned for their safety, for their health and their lives. They're being compromised or older, or people from out of town who are trying to care for their older parents that live in our city. And then on the other side, we have those that consider the COVID scare to be overrated, and they're starting to lose their tempers. And between both sides, I think we all just need to calm down a little bit and take it easy. At City Hall, we are obligated to follow the emergency declaration from Governor Polis. We don't have a choice in that. We are closely following the data and the research and the other hotspots that are occurring in America, and we are acting accordingly to that. And we're doing it for the best health and safety of our citizens and for our healthcare providers and hospitals. With that said, I want to go ahead and start with some brief updates from our administrator and our police chief, and then we'll move on to our questions. So we'll go ahead and start with Ryan Stevens, our city administrator.
Good afternoon, Canyon City. We have been working a lot on business recovery and
some of the resiliency studies and plans for the future as we look towards how we might come out of this in the future. I've been on calls all day today and most of the week with representatives from the State Department of Local Affairs. I know our Economic Development Office and myself have been in touch with our federal delegation, both in the Senate and the House of Representatives today, and we're continuing to work on helping our businesses, and excited to announce that starting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We will have a small business hotline where small business owners can reach out to our staff and try and get connected with the appropriate resources. That staff will also be making outbound calls, reaching out to all of our businesses to try and see what they need right now and where they're at, if they've already applied for some of these stimulus CARES packages. I'm going to go ahead and give you that number right now. That hotline number is 719-299-0541, and it will be open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Then it's going to be staffed by some of our library and museum staff. They're used to connecting people to resources and research, and we know they'll do a good job for you. Again, that number is 719-299-0541, and it will be open starting tomorrow at 9 a.m. At this time, I'm going to pass it over to Police Chief Derek Harvey.
Thank you very much. Same thing. Good afternoon, Canyon City, and I just really want to say thank you for all that you're doing to help support us. We've been getting a lot of letters, people trying to drop off food, just ways to show that they really support our first responders and the police department and the job that we're doing. I think as an update, we've kind of tried to do a couple of things. The birthday parade, the police birthday parade, we've added some ways that you can actually request that. We have had a large number of those. I think in one particular day we had like 37 of those, so it's a little difficult to get through all of them, but we appreciate the opportunity to help you guys celebrate and also for you to be able to stay at home. So on that same note, we have had a couple of people that we've cited for violating the governor's public health order, and the reason for that is there was some juveniles who weren't supposed to be out, and there were some areas where we were having criminal mischief that was occurring. One in particular was at a hotel, and that individual actually was charged with that crime, and then everyone else who was out there with them were also charged with violation of the curfew order. That is not our intent. We don't want to fine people or have issues with charging people that are out that shouldn't be, but clearly if they're out committing crimes, you're going to get charged with not only whatever crime you commit, but also violating the health order, because you got no business being outside. Just remember that if you need to go out, go out. If you don't need to go out, stay at home. Going grocery shopping, caring for a loved one, getting groceries, caring for animals, an essential business, all those things are covered in the governor's order. We've had several things from parents really wanting us to give them help and guidance with their kids and how they can stay home. And we're trying to do that, but I think really what we need is for parents to take that initiative and take that leadership role at home and tell them how important it is so that they are staying home. And if young people are out doing things that they're not supposed to be in violation of the governor's order, they may have a reminder not to do that anymore. And like I said, so we have charged 3 people with that. Those 3 juveniles who were actually charged were up to no good, for lack of a better term. And I can't go into more specifics than that, but we are still trying to make sure that areas are safe. We've had a couple of requests from businesses, Loaf and Jug, Main Street, where there's been a couple of questions there, and so we may end up having a heightened presence again in those areas. We're noticing that traffic has picked up as well, and I'm sure some of that's due to cabin fever, and again, I just want to drive that home. Stay at home. If you don't need to go out, please don't. So that's all I have at the moment.
Let's go ahead and go to our questions.
Go to questions? Okay. Do you feel like the people in Fremont County should all wear masks, even all the store workers? This particular question references folks that have gone to some of the local grocery stores and seen some of the workers without face masks on, And I guess, Chief, you might start with you. I know you've been part of a lot of these public health calls and the emergency management, and do you have a feeling about how that might happen, whether or not everybody should be wearing a mask or not?
So it is recommended by the governor that everybody wear a mask when you're out in public. And as you can see, we're not wearing them right now, but we're keeping social distance and we're inside of a covered area. So again, it's for your safety as well as those around you. So as far as enforcement goes, I think, there are some areas where we really just urge strong compliance with that. And just like the mayor said earlier, be considerate of your neighbor. We talked about this much earlier on, that it's important for you to consider others' feelings as well. And so if you don't have a mask on, it may make them feel a little bit uneasy. And I know too, sometimes that can be bothersome. There's also issues with getting supplies. But there's a bunch of companies out there that are actually selling. Public Health, for example, while they are actually answering phones and helping people understand kind of what the public order is, in their off time, they're sewing masks for people and taking orders. And I think there's some homegrown businesses like that. Tailored West is also doing that. So there's some ways that you can really comply with the order and help support local Canyon City businesses and Canyon City residents. Help us all feel safe. And again, this is one of those things. We trust you, quite honestly. And so we would encourage you to follow that order. Because the intent is to keep people safe, and we don't want to be the bad guy to have to enforce those things. So I guess what I'm saying to you is when we ask you to do something, when the governor's asking you to do something to help keep people safe, it's everybody's responsibility, not just ours. And there's ways, innovative ways.
That's where if they're matching people up, if you need a mask, they're matching you up with volunteers who are making or selling masks. If you need sewing supplies, you can match up with people who have some extra sewing supplies to make those. Also, First Stitches Quilt Shop, they are also making masks and accepting donations of people making them. And their store, in front of it from 10 to 2, they have a box in front of it that you can donate masks that you're making from supplies at home. And those are mostly going to grocery store workers and healthcare workers and to other organizations that need those to help keep the population safe. And so that's a way that you can help participate in keeping masks on our faces during this time. Okay, what do we have next?
All right, the next question is, what might we expect to get testing when we have symptoms? I've heard it's very difficult to get in to see a doctor to get a note. So how do you go about getting tested if you think that you have symptoms? Now I know, during this time and even before COVID, my family has used Teladoc. That's a good way to get connected with a healthcare professional that's can run through some symptoms and things like that. If you don't have a primary care doctor, you can also reach out to the Fremont County Health Department, and they have a questionnaire they can go through to determine whether or not you qualify to be tested or not. Chief, do you have any other suggestions, or Mayor, do you have anything that's...
Well, I have the phone number. So if you need to call the health department and they can go through that series of questions with you if you're sick, that number is 276-7450.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add, because that's the initial screening process to get to drive-through testing with public health as well.
Okay. The next question is, do you feel that social distancing measures in the county are being implemented well by the citizens? Is there something different the council feels should be happening in regards to the stay-at-home mandate? That's directed to council, so I'll pass that over to you, Madam Mayor.
Actually, this week I am really proud of Canyon City and Fremont County. I think that we have been doing a pretty good job. There is some cabin fever brewing, but overall, the city is very quieted down, and our numbers are at 6. We expected to have more cases, and we did get more cases, but it was within a reasonable amount. And if we continue to practice staying at home and only going out when necessary, only sending one person into the grocery store, and wearing those masks when we do go out in public, that we will be able to continue to keep those rates down. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, you covered it well.
Okay. As far as council goes, I think we're still just advocating if we can make these decisions on our own and of our own free will and volition to have these safety precautions, then we don't need to go farther with that. Some counties have been having restrictions. They say no outsiders, please. If you come in, you will be cited. You're not welcome here. We obviously are not encouraging anyone to travel to Canyon City by any means, but we're not closing our borders to Canyon City. I think because we are managing it well right now. Another question that has been asked is totally on the opposite side. Could we create Canyon City where we could actually, because we are doing pretty well, we're in a rural community, it's a little bit easier to keep our numbers down for COVID positive cases. Could we open up our stores under certain policies so we can have businesses open? And so I took that to our attorneys, and the answer is no. We cannot have less restrictive policies than what the governor's emergency mandate is during this time. So we just got to buckle down and keep going forward with what we have.
Yeah, let me just add one thing to that. But I kind of want to brag on both of these folks because city administration and city council, the leadership of Canyon City has really been trying to advocate for things at the governor's office, and we've got a few things changed, or at least weighed in on that have been changed recently. Sunday service is a good example of that. You know, we heard from a lot of our churches in the community that they wanted to have drive-in services, in consultation with local public health, and then making those comments heard at the governor's office. There were some changes that came out. Now, obviously, those were things that would affect the entire state, not just us. But I want you to understand that if it's possible for us to do it, these folks are doing that, and we're advocating at the state level to make sure that issues that are important for Canyon City, that we're doing those and making some progress. So, good job.
I think one of those things that I would like to see advocated from Canyon City is, depending on how the data comes in the next few weeks and how we are doing as a state, is for the governor to take into consideration after April 26th ability for us to be able to operate our businesses a little bit more and be able to get our local economy up and running a little bit more. I understand that it's not going to be 100% normal from day one. It will be a process, but I do want to advocate to our governor that we need that desperately for Canyon City to be able to start opening up, and with good social distancing practices, and if we can adhere to those, that maybe life can come back online a little bit.
This next question, Chief, you and I have kind of talked about this, so I'll let you respond here. But what is the reasoning behind not testing all staff members in the Canyon Lodge where we had the outbreak? And I, you know, it goes on, but that's the crux of the question. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So I've actually had some communication with Fremont County Public Health concerning this exact same thing. And as far as information that we received today, there were 12 people that were pending results. They tested a large number of folks. All the residents there were tested. 2 came back positive. And so just to be clear, an outbreak by terminology, or the definitions that public health is using, is basically one person has it and then another person catches it from them in that area. So it's not that it is running rampant in that facility. It has, obviously there are 2 people who tested positive. And the question really is around, why haven't more people been tested over there? And the same thing is true for police officers. There are some changes that are happening with that. But I would just echo Dr. King's comments concerning viral testing. And so part of the reason why people aren't getting tested when they don't show symptoms, i.e. Canyon Lodge staff, is if their viral load, and I'm talking way above my education here, but if their viral load is not high enough, a test would basically be a false positive, because if you don't have enough of the virus in your system, the test won't actually accurately reflect whether or not you are positive. And so they somewhat have to wait for those symptoms to be present, because then they've got enough of the virus in their system to actually show whether and accurately test whether or not they are positive. I do know there are some changes that are happening with that. The CDC obviously put some stuff out today, changing when they believe that people are able to communicate the disease. So they're learning quite a bit about it, but the answer to the question is they can't test because they might get a false positive unless they're showing symptoms. I do know that public health is paying a lot of attention to Canyon Lodge and having communication with them, and so I don't want to speak too much concerning what they've done, but that was the answer that was given to me as far as why all of the staff weren't necessarily tested. And I've had police officers that have made contact with folks who are saying, you know, I've got COVID-19. It's not lab confirmed, or they're not showing symptoms or signs, and so it's kind of changing our business a little bit too. But I've had officers that I've had to send home for 14 days to quarantine because that same thing, if they're not showing symptoms, essentially we get a false positive. So as new information comes out from public health and the CDC, obviously we'll share that with you. But, and that's not, I don't know, I wish I could give you more, but that's the answer.
Thank you, Chief. The next question says, my question is to the mayor about non-essential businesses not closing and why that isn't being enforced. It references 3 tobacco stores that are not convenience stores but are still open and operating. And isn't that a direct violation of Governor Polis's order? The other part of this is that it says that they've already spoken to the health department and they said that the stores fall under convenience stores.
So during an emergency declaration, the agency that has jurisdiction on making decisions ultimately falls to the Department of Health. And if they say that the tobacco industries follow under convenience stores, then that's what it is for our community. And that's what we have to follow. And so that's where we are. If that's how it's interpreted by the Fremont County Department of Public Health, that's what it is for us. Now, if there are some businesses that are truly non-essential and they are still operating, then that does need to come to the attention of the Department of Health, and they will contact those businesses, and that will be addressed.
And just to be clear, there is a lot of guidance out there, but when it comes to essential and non-essential, there is some room for interpretation there. So we are defaulting to the Public Health Department.
Could I add just one thing to that? So even the recent revisions to allowing drive-in services for Easter Sunday this Sunday, the governor's office deferred to, we are allowing that, but it's up to your local public health as well. So just providing some additional support for what the mayor is saying. If you've got a question about it, local public health is going to be the one that you would need to call and ask that, because if they say it's a violation and the business continues to stay open, that's when they would get me involved or my folks involved, and we would actually go through some other enforcement measures. But it does start with public health even when the police department's involved.
I think it does come to each local division, because each community is different on where they're at with COVID-19. Luckily, we are good enough that we can have those Easter services that are drive-in for community.
All right, the next question is, let's talk about our Main Street businesses. Many are applying for loans to get by and keep staff, and in some cases pay rent. How long of an application process is it, and what is the city doing to help? We have Brandy Feller, our grant writer, who's been gathering information, and do we have a time frame before they will get that necessary funding? So we've been gathering lots of information about all the different CARES Act stimulus projects. There's a lot of information. I believe it's about 350 pages of legislation that we've combed through trying to figure it out, and even after that, it's still being interpreted, and we're still getting lots of different guidance from the Small Business Administration. As I mentioned earlier, we are standing up a business hotline to help our businesses connect to all the different resources. So, we've got the CARES Act at the federal level. There's helpcoloradonow.gov or .org, I believe, which is the state's initiative to try and help local businesses. And we have this outreach team that's will be starting tomorrow. They'll be reaching out starting at 9 o'clock. Again, that number is 719-299-0541. Regarding the application process itself, we have gone through and done a couple sample applications just to see how easy it is or how difficult it might be. From an application standpoint, it's pretty for a federal government application, it's pretty easy to go through, and it's going to ask for information about your business and the information that you need to apply. But for the most part, it's a rather easy process. Now, the question about funding and when that's going to happen, we're hearing all kinds of different things coming from our senators and state representatives and the Small Business Administration. We're hoping that funding is going to flow quickly, but when it comes to the Paycheck Protection Program, that funding will flow through the bank. When it comes to the Disaster Relief Emergency Fund, that's going to flow through the Small Business Administration, and they've had a couple hiccups as they've gone through that process. So we're still waiting to hear what the actual funding timelines will be.
I would also like to add that we are very aware of our business's needs. I have started a COVID-19 Business Leaders Task Force. We have members from the Chamber of Commerce, FEDC, FCTC, from the marketing industry, and business owners themselves. And we are really trying to reach out to our businesses and give them the resources and the tools that they need. From that task force has come this hotline. We also have a Facebook page called Canyon City COVID-19 Small Business Resources. If you're a business owner, please get on that and ask to join. We are posting stuff every single day, frequently times a day, of connections to webinars, seminars, blogs, links to answers to questions on filling out your paperwork, and also other new grants and funding opportunities for small businesses and business owners. Now, with that, I want to say that our business owners, they're frustrated, and they are beyond frustrated. They're devastated, emotionally wrecked. Many of them are not going to be opening up their doors again for a lot of our small businesses. And as a task force, we're doing our best, not just to connect them to those resources, but also we will be marketing a campaign for you as our citizens here to locally be able to shop online and help them and keep them alive. And so we ask for your support in doing that, and just really being there to help them, whether it is getting that takeout food or shopping online through the new campaign that's going to be announced next week. But also, if you can, give them 5-star Google reviews. Do what you can to support these businesses during this time. And it is taking time. As my husband, we have filled out our paperwork. We are going through that process, and a lot of us haven't heard anything yet. So it's going to be a process to get through it.
And I think one thing to add to that is that the city is really working with a bunch of different organizations, including public health, to really address some of the businesses' concerns. And so next Thursday, actually just before our 4 o'clock Facebook Live event, there's a business town hall. So there's a lot that's happening there, and especially if you're hurting, that's what we're here for, is to help serve. So if there's things that we can help with that, whether you're a business owner or a private citizen, let us know so we can help you with that.
Absolutely. So just a reminder, that hotline number for business owners is 719-299-0541.
The next question is, everyone is cutting back right now. The impact is being felt across the board. How will the city be impacted by the potential lower sales tax revenue? Has the city already made cuts? And that is something I've asked our department directors to start pulling their budgets, putting together 10 and 20% cuts. And that is certainly a concern for us. We don't know exactly what that impact is going to look like. Our sales tax numbers are lagging indicators, meaning that we don't actually get sales tax results until the month after a month of collection. So we are preparing for what could be a worst case scenario, and we're looking to to make those cuts with some of our big capital projects. Another question about business aid. Since the business aid some of us were supposed to have by now still hasn't come, and sales taxes are due in 10 days, is the city or state offering any concessions such as waiving late fees? And yes, for our small businesses, we will be waiving late fees and penalties for March and April, and we'll continue to monitor that as this goes on. I know the state and the governor has also put out some guidance for state sales tax collection, and we will put that, we can put a copy of that order out as well. But I believe they're also doing something similar where they're waiving those late fees. The next question is, could the loss of revenue impact our streets projects? Maybe give an update on the streets that are on tap for this spring and summer. So last night during our general government meeting, we actually had a very extensive discussion about the streets that are next on tap. We are moving forward with 9th Street, but based on what that sales tax revenue looks like, we may have to push some of the streets that we had planned for this year into next year. So that is something that we are continuing to monitor, but we will be moving forward with 9th Street this year. So that's 9th Street optimistic. I'm going to go to one that we have online real quick here, and this one will be for Derek. How come CCPD officers are not wearing protective masks? Would it not be best practice?
Yeah, actually, I was just getting a text about that. We talked about mandating that officers wear it all the time, and the problem with it is that we just don't have the supplies, really. I mean, if you think about a uniform, we wear that 4 days a week. We take each uniform home that we have. I've got 8, but we take those uniforms home and we wash them and clean them. We just don't have the number of PPE masks to really do that on a daily basis. So the way that we have actually instructed our officers is that whenever someone is exhibiting symptoms, we're maintaining a 6-foot social distance. We have information when somebody has a lab confirmed case. We don't get their personal information or who it actually is, but we would have an address to where somebody might have had a positive result in a lab test. And so then at that point we would gear up all of our protective equipment before we go in there. We are implementing protocols prior to the actual start of shift, which are taking temperatures, asking questions about exposure. And so we are taking measures to protect the public and our own employees, but we just simply don't have the masks to change them out on a daily basis.
The next question is, with any hope we will reopen America in May, what impact do you think this will have on our tourist season? And you know, I think that's one of the big question marks is, you know, I don't know that anybody's anticipating that we're just going to open the doors, open the gates, and everybody's going to be able to freely move about. It's probably going to be a staggered opening. So we're continuing to monitor our tourist season and our tourist attractions and you know, have been in touch with those operators to see what they're hearing and what they're expecting. But right now, it's still kind of a moving target, and honestly, that's kind of where we're at. We're just continuing to monitor, and we'll wait and see what happens at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to add that I don't think we're going to be in full business in May either. Coming from the governor's office, it stressed that we should anticipate continued social distancing measures until a vaccine is found, and that we will still need to be changing some of our habits. And I'm not sure how that is going to affect the tourist industry, but it will affect our industries. Public health is already planning for what this will look like when we can allow people to open their stores. There will need to be guidelines and protocols in place to continue to keep people safe, is what I've heard from them. From the public health, they say that they're hopeful that we can find a balance once Colorado has passed the first surge and is deemed safe to do so. And so until then, it's our jobs to keep everyone safe right now. And Canyon City is not exempt or somehow immune from the devastation of this virus. And so we're going to still be seeing some changes and some protocols for us when we are able to slowly probably open our doors.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to add just a brief comment to that as well, is that you hit the nail on the head. This is the new normal, right? I think people think that, okay, once this is over, we'll go back to the way that things were prior to. And that's just simply not true. The virus is here, right? And until a vaccination is actually invented and allows us to return to pre-COVID-19, it's a lot like many other things that have happened over the past several years, is that something has come along, we have to change what we're doing, because even once we stem this initial tide, can we get back to some semblance of normal, because it's never going to go back to the way it was before COVID-19, unfortunately.
All right. Lower attendance at the Royal Gorge Bridge is a direct hit to funding for the city. What can the city do to promote us more in the summer months to attract tourists? In addition to all the other groups that we have working, we have been working with our tourist entities as well, and working on some type of correlated response or marketing campaign in order to have a unified message go out when we are able to open those doors, and of course based on those guidelines and what that new normal looks like. So again, it's something that we're planning for. I think we really want to be able to reopen the community and reopen and welcome people into our community again. I think we're very caring and giving community, and it's something that's I think a lot of people, especially our small businesses, thrive on, and we're making preparations for that as well.
And part of those preparations too is recognizing that we are under severe cabin fever, and as soon as we can get out and start traveling a little bit and getting out and doing some more things with our lives, we're going to be anxious to get out and do it. And we want to be able to harness that energy to Canyon City in a safe way, but also a profitable way. And we're figuring that there are a lot of people on some tight shoestrings for their budgets, and we want them to be able, they can't afford probably to go to Hawaii or to Disneyland, but they can afford to come to Canyon City. And so we are looking to Coloradans to come and entice them to come to a great city called Canyon and our Royal Gorge Bridge.
Okay. The next question is, and I think you kind of covered this a little bit earlier, Madam Mayor, but Chaffee County closed off to visitors this week. Many want Fremont County to do the same. Do you agree with that tactic?
I presented this question to City Council, and like I mentioned earlier, we feel comfortable with where we're at. Fremont County is doing a really good job, and I don't see a need for excessive restrictions at this time.
Okay. The next question is, we now see grocery stores limiting the number of people in the store at one time. What is your opinion on that tactic?
Well, a lot of communities are doing that. And there's been some concern that sometimes there's huge crowds at Walmart or other stores, and it's kind of typical now to have some of those social distancing in place. And I think a part of that also is because Walmart has had an employee that has died from COVID-19, and there's some litigation there. So I think some of our stores and especially our bigger merchants are realizing that there's some liability for them too in being safe and having those social distancing taken care of for the safety of everybody, including our workers. All right, Ryan has taken care of some technical difficulties. So I will take on another question, and that is, what are the chances of our schools reopening before the end of the school year? And so I reached out to our superintendent, George Welsh, and he said that the governor will be making some announcements about schools around the week of April 20th. And so they're waiting to make their decision when they get that announcement from the governor, one way or another. We are being told that it's highly unlikely that we will be able to return to school as normal before the end of the school year. And they are communicating pretty well with our students and with the staffing. I really appreciate them. They've been doing a really great job under the circumstances. So thank you, Canyon City Schools.
I think that question actually came from my daughter, who's a teenager in high school. She's gonna have to go back to school.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of teenagers in school, I literally have a son who is sunbathing while doing his schoolwork. And so, some of them are kind of enjoying that time to be a little bit more casual with their studying. But I also have another little kiddo, 3rd grade, and they were doing a Zoom meeting with the other students in class. And it really hit home to me when I overheard one of the kids say that chance to see his other classmates helped him stop feeling sad for a little bit. And it just really touched on how this change in schedule, especially for our children, is really tough. And they're feeling it. Some of our kids are really feeling it deeply, and as adults, some of us are feeling it really deeply. So Vista has reached out for those who have mental health concerns, that they are there for you. You can call and talk to them. And so Vista Health also, while we're on that topic, they are offering some free classes that you can do for mental health. So they, some of them are like to help with mourning or with anxiety, or maybe some yoga and exercising and some things like that. And I'm trying to find really quick. So this is from Solvista, and there's 2 numbers you can call. You can call Dusty about these free daily health groups. Dusty's number is 431-3575, and then Heather at 322-3925. And I'll put their numbers on the comments so that we can help get that information out if you feel like you'd like to participate in any of those.
Well, and I think too, one thing that's really important is we don't think about it as parents, but that structure, believe it or not, provides some semblance of normal life. And so when the kids don't have that, that's part of the reason why they're getting cabin fever and going out in different places. And so one of the ways that you can help as a parent, help your kids get through that, is just like the mayor's saying and doing with her family, is creating some structure around normal life. And that involves school, right? And school has very structured times of things that they do. And something as simple as having lunch together at the time they would normally have that at school can create some of that normalcy that will help kids not be, I've got to get out of here. So think about those structures and do it in a creative way. I mean, sunbathing while doing algebra, that sounds, I wish I could have done that in high school. But anyway, those are just some things that you can do as a parent to help your kids get through this tough time. So I applaud you, Madam Mayor.
There's some other positive things that are happening in our community for that. So with our kids yesterday, we put up hearts all over our house windows, and that's a movement of solidarity and unity and just positivity, and also thanking those who are delivering things to our homes. Mm-hmm. And we had a lot of fun doing that with our kids, and it's fun going around the neighborhoods and seeing the other messages that are being put with those hearts on the houses. This Saturday, there's another movement to chalk your driveway and your sidewalk with positive messages. So this is Easter Saturday. It's a great opportunity to chalk some really positive messages to our neighbors that are going by on their walks or driving by to brighten their day. And we actually last night as a family howled at the moon for the super moon. We joined that movement, and it started out feeling silly, but we had one neighbor that said, hey, I'll do it if you do it. So I called our other neighbor on the other side and said, are you going to do it with us? And it was actually pretty bonding for us as neighbors to come together and howl at the moon for a little bit and just vent out some of those things. And so just little things that just take away some of the mundane of the stay at home monotony is pretty nice to have.
Chief, you're from Florida. I'm not sure that you didn't sunbathe while doing algebra.
Well, I wasn't doing algebra. I was sunbathing, but I wasn't doing algebra.
Well, I'll tell you what, this kid's getting pretty tan. It's a lot of schoolwork outside going on.
All right, the next question, it says, it seems that a service for single moms needing groceries is needed. Possibly an officer in the parking lot who can watch vehicles for children while the single parent runs in to get groceries. I've seen some of these comments and I've heard this as well. I think that's something that we need to look into as far as trying to get additional resources or maybe even curbside delivery for some of those people in those instances. I think those single parents certainly don't want to take all those kids into the store if you don't have to. So I don't know if anybody's seen anything else to address that or not.
Well, Walmart does provide that curbside pickup, and so that's a great service to take advantage of for sure.
Okay. We are also thankful for our trails and open spaces. I'd like to know if we're in danger, like other communities across the state, of having trails closed. What can we do to help this to not happen? I will wear a mask, I promise. And of course, that's from Ashley Sack. Right now, we don't have any plans of closing down our trails or the open spaces. We have had discussions with public health. It is something that public health is monitoring. Right now, it's something that our Parks Department is monitoring as well as the rec district. As long as people are practicing good social distancing and doing those best practices while they're out on the trails, that's what we're looking for. It's very important for people to get out of the house, be able to stretch their legs, get some sunshine, get some fresh air during a time like this. And we do encourage people to take that mental break and that physical break to go and enjoy some of our trails and some of the great amenities and assets that we have here in Canyon City. We've got one question here from John McBride on Facebook about water rates and water bills. During this time, we have suspended water shutoffs, and just like the sales tax, we are being more penalties for late payments. So that is something that we're looking at, and we'll continue to monitor that situation as well. That is all the questions I have from that we got before. I'll go through here one more time and make sure we didn't miss any on the website, on Facebook. It looks like we have more comments than questions. Madam Mayor, do you have any closing comments?
Well, thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Chief Harvey. Really appreciate you joining me today for this live Facebook update. And thank you for tuning in, Canyon City, and for being aware and conscious and concerned for the health of our community. I am just incredibly proud and also humbled by our community, how well we've been coming together, lending a helping hand, staying positive, and also having high moral values during this time. I had a news reporter from the television on the phone and just talking about the things that are happening in Canyon. For example, the police coming to do the 5-car squad happy birthday wishes to our kids. And they said, only in Canyon could you see this. And I was proud to say, you're right. These things happen in Canyon City. And it's because of our integrity and our kindness and our ability to have that personal touch and personal care to our neighbors around us. And that goes right there with making sure that we can provide masks to everybody that needs and wants them. Overall, we've been keeping our COVID positive cases fairly small. We are a rural community, and we should be able to keep that way. And that is up to us to buckle down and get through this as best as we can, to stick with the mandates, to stay at home as much as possible, to wear our masks, and to get outside and have that mental health as much as you can, and that's reasonable. I want us to get back to normalcy as soon as we can, especially for our businesses. So I guess my final comment is to stay tuned. We are going to be launching a really great marketing campaign for our local businesses. We want them to stay alive. We want their doors to come open when this is done, and we need your support to be able to do that. So in the meantime, I will see you at the grocery store with my mask, and we'll see you later.